once again, we've got Tom Ahles coming out, Mike Kortas, David Temko, moderated by Philip Mancuso, everybody.
Yeah, it's the winner circle. The definition. Winner circle pro is everything that the game's been missing. Step into the winner circle. Legends with extraordinary storytelling. Winner circle pro is for the culture. Yeah, it's more than wrestling.
All right, let's bring him on out. Come on, guys.
Doing anything for that win. Ain't no room for the losers. Look to the future and how we introduce them. Pound for pound chain like we took it to the jewelers. It ain't about the fame or the vanity and bullshit. The crown is for the claim, whether amateur or blue chip is drowning out the pain.
So we had to kind of leave this panel for somewhat late in the day in case, you know, we shut down the hotel. All the electricity is going to get sucked out of the building with all this firepower up on stage. So we're supposed to talk about building a large and effective team. What's interesting is I don't know that those two things are synonymous and/or mutually exclusive. So in some regard, I want to kind of maybe split that up for a second and then maybe bring it back together. So Tom, how do you build a large team?
You know, the question was asked earlier, and I heard a lot of good sharing points that it's all kind of the same. I think for me, building a large team is really empowering other people to become leaders, right? I think if we look at, you know, the three of us that are up here, and I know a lot of the leaders within their organizations as well as mine, we're empowering them to be their own leaders, right? We've kind of dual purposed them to not only operate as a top performing originator, but also as a top performing recruiter or somebody who's building a team and really giving them support. As a lot of people were speaking earlier on the last Q&A session, it's trying to replace yourself. There are leaders that are going to like to follow any one of us here, but then there's also our team members that maybe they resonate with better. And it's making sure that you're giving those team members the power to be able to operate under your organization and help them thrive at what their skill set is. You know, for me personally, I love sales, I love helping people, although I hate accounting, I hate call reports. I have amazing partners that help me from that perspective to where I can focus on what is it that I'm great at and how do I do the best job at what my role is. So to me, it's really finding those people, finding out what is their skill set and helping develop that skill set to make them the very best version of themselves.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have 9 4-hitters or 9 9-hitters or 3 quarterbacks, so, you know, some degree of specialization, some degree of, you know, gaining an understanding of what folks do well, certainly an important part of building an organization. Mike?
Yeah, I'm gonna probably mimic a lot of that. At the end of the day, empowering loan officers is, to me, the #1 thing to build a massive organization. They know better than, in my opinion, than a recruiter on how this is going to work. And loan officers being recruited by loan officers has worked really well for us as well. Tom and I have a similar formula in that we both incentivize them, the loan officers, to actually go out and do the recruiting. We don't believe in middle management. I have no middle management. It goes, every loan officer at Next Mortgage has my cell phone. By the time I get off stage, I'll have 20 more texts I have to get to. It's just, you know, empowering them and giving them access and directly. And then as far as, you know, building it beyond that, because building it with no middle management, Rana mentioned it earlier. I talk to our department heads all the time. I says, you have to work yourself out of a job without fear of you'll lose your job. You have to become a master delegator to run an organization that large in order to be able to get anything done. I couldn't even tell you how to log in to LendingPad right now, to be honest with you. I couldn't tell you how to take an application today. I've never taken an application on the new application, as an example. But I know people who do anymore, and my role is best to grow the organization, and people have come to me and said, you know, as well, Next is only about recruiting. No fucking shit. That's how we, yes, that's what we're about. You're damn right that's what I'm about. I'm about growing. I'm about growth. And people say, well, I don't want to be with an organization that big. I'm like, well, then go with a small organization that doesn't have as much firepower as what we have. You know what I mean? So, but I'm going to, you know, a lot of what Tom already said is going to be exactly true for Nexa. So.
I love the energy, by the way. So this is going to be a two-part question for you because I want you to sort of finish the first question and then we're going to work our way back. So kind of you lead with the second question. And Mike said something about everybody has my phone number. And, one of the highlights of the last couple years for me is that I've had the opportunity to spend some time with you guys, on a personal level. And I kind of just learned this word a few months ago and have establish a core memory. I don't know that we called it a core memory, but it's very fitting, and so stay on the first question, but then the second question is, in a large organization, in an organization that's diverse geographically, how do you keep it personal?
Yeah, so it starts with a foundation of strength and support that allows a loan officer to focus their time where they're most effective. I think we have an extremely powerful back office that gives them all the stuff that they don't want to do so they can get out in front of more borrowers, more realtors, more partners to deliver that white glove treatment and that experience, that power of home ownership, and continue to facilitate that. So I think that's extremely powerful because it allows them to just really focus their time where they are the best. From your second part of your question, that authenticity, it comes from, there's just a lot of approachability and a lot of information sharing. We're a very large community, a network, and there's thousands of years of experience within that network. And for someone coming in that could be new to the business or even been in the business for 30 years, the power of connecting with people that have that ability to share, and where you give everything away, it always comes back to you. Having that, it really drives the ship and makes it a lot bigger and a lot faster and a lot stronger. So, same thing. It's like everybody's got my cell phone number. I like that ABCs, always be cool. We keep it pretty cool. And, if you need anything from me, I joke around, I'm just the lead janitor, but I keep it clean. So it's good.
That's nice. One of my former partners used to say when, you kind of were willing to do whatever you needed to do to be successful. He said, we'll stick a broom up his ass and let him sweep the floor while he's walking around. So there is that.
I'll leave that to him.
Mike, so you talked about the phone, but beyond everyone having your phone number, how do you keep it personal?
Well, so you're getting into the culture part of things too, right? And culture is just everything. I'm still blown away the culture that Nexa has. Based on being a completely virtual company, right? Like we have a corporate office in Chandler, Arizona. I've never seen it. I've never been there. I have no idea what it looks like. I know somebody does go there, but I don't, right? And my corporate office is where I open my laptop that day, at the end of the day, in a completely virtual environment. But we depend on things like this, right? So anytime I travel, and I'm an empty nester now all of a sudden, so I'm going to be traveling a lot. But I just want to go to every city and get Nexans in that vicinity. And my assistant does a great job at organizing these things where, like tomorrow, the Nexans who couldn't come here because you guys sold out, we'll do a brunch before I fly out, going to Tampa, doing a dinner in Tampa with everybody in that area tomorrow, then going up to Destin. And so traveling around and doing events are a big way that we do it. But we also have our weekly Zoom calls that the entire company gets on. And even Zoom was blown away. They're like, how in God's earth are you? We say, hey, we need more than 1,000 people in a room without going to webinar version, because I need them to be able to unmute and call bullshit anytime they want and know that it's factual, right? That I'm not screening who gets to talk, because you can screen through webinars. I need them to trust that. And the Zoom's like, how in God's earth are you managing a meeting with 1,000 people? I'm like, we're really good at this, trust me, right? But to me, culture, like money, is great, but you can never trade money for culture. I heard somebody saying earlier that their top producer might be a cancer, and I don't give a shit about money. I chase the culture, because if you chase the culture, the money will come. I guarantee it. And then happiness comes with it. There's nothing worse than dealing with a pain in the ass over and over and over and over. And at Nexa, we tell them, you got to, once you come in the door, right, we work as a team. So, but we have our internal pages that they work really well on. Our Zoom calls, so anybody can call me out on our town hall meetings. We do that every single week. We've been doing it for years, and those are insightful, and they get fun sometimes, because people do come in and call me out. But it's okay. You know, I had a guy that actually, an ex that wanted to fist fight me at President's Club, and he didn't get fired. Fuck it, I'm good with it. You know, I'm okay with confrontation. Conflict gets shit done, and that just shows passion to me. Don't get me wrong, he was a little drunk, but so it's, you know, I enjoy the conflict that comes out of certain things because that actually builds the culture and lets people know that they have a say here. They can say whatever the hell they want to me and know that it's going to be okay. Just expect what I say back, by the way. So.
I love that. Now, I want to hit the pause button here for a second before we get to you, Tom, because you're certainly hearing it in this panel, and I believe we've heard it for 2 days, and it really, I want this to sink in. The most successful people, the most successful companies, in my experience, are the ones that respect the process, that understand that the outcome is a byproduct of doing the right thing. The outcome is a byproduct of having the right culture. The outcome is a byproduct of seeing the bigger picture. Coach said it yesterday. We've got to really recognize that. The point of this whole thing is to learn. We've got to break the pattern of coming to these things time and time again and then going back and not doing the things that other successful people or maybe people who are more successful than us are doing. So, and I'm going to follow that same cadence. So, finish question 1 for us, but then question 2, and Mike talked about, hey, I need to keep a forum whereby feedback is welcome. How do you guys at Edge deal with feedback and promote feedback?
Yeah, so the first question really for me, it's I think very similar to a lot of us here. Even Eddie, the CEO of your guys' organization, every email that goes out, you have feedback for me. He's there, he's open. Those of you that are here love and support EPM because of the people, right? And I think there was another gentleman on stage that was talking about, you know, all the Nexa guys look like our buddy Brian Shields that can lift, like there's a following of people that like, trust, and know the person that they work with. So for me, I want to try to find people that I can help them achieve the goals that they want. When I look at who my top producers are, and 2 of them are here, you know, shout out to Todd and Jay White in the back. They're both amazing professionals. They don't need me, but they value the relationship because we make each other better. When I can do that, now I'm creating other leaders in my organization that if there's a problem, a lot of times the leaders are handling it without me getting involved. People can call me anytime. I'm very accessible. We have done a lot of things, I would say all of us hold, whether it's a town hall, we hold an all call, kind of the same situation. If there's a grievance or something that you want to communicate about, bring it to us, right? But for me, my value proposition for our team is really, even if you don't stay with me, I'm not concerned about my business, I'm concerned about the individual, right? Think of my buddy Stephen Tunn down here. You know, he went from Edge to U Mortgage and now opens his own shop. He's a friend of mine. I'd love to see his success. It's not about what I'm getting from that. It's like I've learned things from the people that I surround myself with. They make me a better leader. They show me things on, hey, you know, this is what action looks like when you talk to somebody about a game plan and, hey, here's what I've done. I personally like to lead from in front, meaning I do know how to take an application. I still produce, right? I still do it because I want to make sure if I have a team member call me, even one of my best team members, I know the guidelines. I want to be an expert at the craft because my style of leadership, it's like the same way when I was originating, I went and got my real estate license. Didn't want to do real estate. I would hate having people in my car all the time. However, I wanted to do their job better than what they knew how to do it, right? And what that allowed me to do is that when I would see purchase contracts come in and I would see personal property addendums where they're buying, you know, the lawn furniture, and it's like I could help coach them and make them better. And now I have a different value proposition in that relationship other than, yeah, we sell money fast, we close, you know, all of the advantages of being a broker, the same as it comes to my team members. I want to be somebody that they know if they call me. I'm not talking the talk. I can walk it. I mean, I'll do my own business, but at the same time, Monday through Sunday, you call me. Thankfully, my wife's supportive with that. I'll drop the phone, drop what we're doing to answer it because I care. And it's not that I care about making an extra couple $100s. It's I care about what is that extra money going to do for them and help their family and achieve the goals that they have in their future.
Awesome. Dave, we'll skip over Mike because sort of Mike was the one that sort of initiated my question in terms of promoting feedback. So how do you guys at C2 sort of promote feedback and then internalize it when maybe that feedback isn't positive?
Yeah, we've been building this business for almost 30 years and on a suggestion box basis. You know, a lot of times loan officers will come to us and say, hey, why don't you have this? And why don't we have this? It's a great idea. I'm glad you brought that to me. If you're thinking that and saying that, I'm sure 100 others are thinking it and not. So it's an opportunity to take feedback and act on it and grow the business in a way that you continue to deliver more value, because the more you do, for one, it'll spread through the others. They'll see the value of it and it'll make their business better. I mean, our job as leaders is to make our loan officers better, faster, stronger, so they can be the best that they can be and find their level of success, whatever that level of success may be. They're independent, you know, they're entrepreneurs on our platform, and we welcome their feedback because they're the front lines, you know. I'm not originating. My background was commercial real estate, commercial brokerage, commercial banking. We built a commercial division, and I've since delegated that out so I can lead all fronts and make sure that all channels grow and we attract the right people that align with our culture. And, you know, we're all brokers up here. We have slightly different models, different tribes that attract talent that aligns with our cultures. And that culture that we drive is from, you know, it's a very organic place, an organic, authentic feeling. And, you know, we're all here to help each other. And by doing so, it's taking that feedback and acting on it and delivering on it.
Yeah, I mean, look, and if it's not obvious, both in terms of knowing the guys, and you could just sort of just see it on the stage, is there's more than one way to skin a cat. I mean, each organization is very distinct in their approach, different culture, different tribe, as you say. And, you know, if anything, it further emphasizes one of the points that was established in the last session that I tried to double down on is, you know, to be successful, you have to have courage. And that courage oftentimes is about being willing to say no, being willing to be yourself, being willing to be vulnerable. And I also think that that's sort of a moment of pause here is to establish that each of these men, each of these organizations have blazed their own trail. There's no one formula on the surface, but if you're also paying attention, right, there's a clear formula under the surface, a drive, a passion, a willingness, a vulnerability, and maybe a few other things that we'll uncover. One more question about large, okay? And Mike, we'll start with you. What was perhaps the greatest impediment, maybe the singular thing that, you know, you felt like you had to overcome at a moment in time to get from small to large, whatever that means?
You're going to love this answer. My biggest fucking impediment is business partners. Now that I've gotten rid of them, I'm fucking taking the roof off. So, no, honestly, massive, big thinking. Not everybody can do it. And I get it, checks and balances, the yin to the yang shit, but, you know, just fucking let me go is my thing. Just take the chain off and let me go, and I'll blow it up. And I'm not an idiot in when I make decisions. Like, we do things, and we started paying 100% on certain volumes a couple years ago. Then we started paying 100% to certain recruiters a couple of years ago. Then we just announced next one how we pay 100% on everything. And people are like, how in God's earth do you do it? And I'm like, well, you gotta, I didn't just do it. You know, I knew the numbers. That's been a plan for years, and I got more coming that are coming in years. But, you know, I run the numbers. It's not like, you know, I remember one time a partner was like, no, I need to see the numbers on this. And so I texted him a couple numbers. He goes, no, I need spreadsheets. I'm like, well, that's all you get is we're doing this. So because I know it works, right? I know every single aspect of the business, and I know the different departments and how this works, so that works, and I can see down the road. But the biggest impediment to me is, I don't know, just get out of my way. I know what will work, and I know how to make money. And to me, it's all about volume now. Just drive the volume, and you can make money in so many different ways that you don't need to make money on units anymore. And so that was my biggest thing, is that. And then, of course, with growth, if you're going to grow to something of that size, you got to be ready to scale it. And employment, right, and hiring the people in the back to run it was huge. And you got to have the right people on board, and they have to know that they have a voice. So everybody's really a part of it, part of the team, and everybody knows that they can give any feedback at any given time. And then you have to be, you have to run you got to know, okay, if I have this many loan officers and I have this much production, I'm going to need this many people in payroll. I need this many people in onboarding. I need this many people in compliance, right, to check all the files. So you have to know the numbers of what you need. And you can figure those numbers out pretty quickly in an organization as you scale. And so shit, I'm like 3 staff behind in payroll. I better pick it up, right? I'm going to have a problem if we have a jump here all of a sudden. So you just know your numbers. You're just always watching your numbers.
I mean, I love numbers, so you're not going to get an argument from me on that. Dave, I'd love for you to answer that question, but
nobody put that online, please. That I said that. I don't need another another accusation and a lawsuit of defamation bullshit.
Answer that.
Live streamed.
We reserve whatever that scroll is at the beginning or the end of a baseball game. We reserve the rights. So same question, but specific to you. You had some pretty large and personal shoes to fill. Just if you can sort of touch on that too in your answer, I'd love it, and I think everyone would appreciate that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in this business. My father was a pioneer in the industry. He was the first one that created the high-split mortgage brokerage shop and took a carbon copy paper application and converted it to Excel and hit the streets and gave it away and said, hey, you can have this, or you can join my company for 10% and use all my systems. And that was really the genesis of a high-split mortgage brokerage shop. And we grew up from there. So that system has always been in place. It's tried and true. There's a lot of trust in it. There's integrity. And there's a lot of transparency there. So just really kind of hammering that home. Apples don't fall far from the tree. I learned a lot from my dad. He's my greatest mentor. I knew what success was when I was 18, going out on chicken colleges with him and saying, hey, he's reached my, what I deem a level of success. And that's running an entrepreneurial business, being an entrepreneur, being successful, having a beautiful wife and a family, and having the time and the money and the friends to enjoy it all. And that's really what it comes down to. And that's what resonates to me. From a scale standpoint, it's about having that core group of people that are your backbone of your infrastructure that allow your team to ebb and flow no matter market conditions. My core team can facilitate the needs of 500 to 5,000 loans, and I don't have to get on a Zoom call when the market crashes and lay off 1,000 people, And our models allow us to kind of wade waters and ride tides that others cannot, that grow and hire and then fire as fast as they did. And that's just not what I like to do. I don't like to see it. And I think it's really disappointing to see, industry leaders having to do that, or, in ours. And we're at the benefit to be able to be as independent as we are, to support each other, to grow our businesses, and all tides, lift the boats. So I always wonder if we're in competition together, if we're good for each other or bad for each other. But I think competition drives, a greater experience, sharpens the knife and makes us all better and strive to be better every day.
Yeah, another spot here that I want to kind of pause, because you just touched on something that I think Bob talked about this morning. We I hate to say it this way, we are better together, if you will. I mean, to sort of coin a phrase. And, ultimately, when you talk about, the journey of brokering, right? And we've talked about the hit of 08, ultimately, if we gain 60, 80, 90% market share, whatever our individual piece is, it's bigger than if we grow X. You know, and frankly, you know, if I'm transparent for a second, right? You know, we on a sales call, we were talking about where a rate's going to go, and you know, we feel, despite how down I am, and anyone that's followed me knows I'm incredibly bearish on the economy and ultimately bullish on interest rates, I also at the same time don't think that any savior's coming anytime soon. And so, you know, what our internal narrative is look, sure, it may be easy to say, hey, you know, if we have a mini refi boom because rates drop by 100 basis points, it's going to be great. You know, but how much is our business going to really increase? 10%, 20%, 30%? What if instead of hoping and wishing, the great Burgess Meredith, you know, you could wish in one hand, shit in the other, see which one fills up first. You know, what we could do is we could focus on our fucking business, right, and double it. So.
Can I say something real quick? So I've said this before, and I'll say it again in the future, but I certainly want to recognize it now. Your father taught a lot of us, a lot of things. He was the trailblazer in allowing it to happen. So.
Absolutely.
So Tom.
Pops was the man.
So what was or do you perceive to be your biggest obstacle to growth?
You know, I think Mike hit on it, is really understanding the numbers and scalability. You know, when you understand as you're, you know, we bring on roughly 100 a month. We fire at a pace right now of roughly 60. So it's about net 40 a month in growth, and understanding how many team members do you need to support that. The most important thing, even if you're a single originator, is what would happen if you got 10 new contracts today? Does your team have the ability to perform, or you're going to lose a lifelong relationship, right? So to me, the relationships for the majority of my team members, I think, are for life, right? I really think that they will retire with me. I say it often, I'm 43 for a little under 30 days left. I'm gonna retire when I'm 65. I like doing this. So I got 21 years left of doing it. I want you to retire with me. And with that, it comes down to understanding, if things boom, are you prepared for it? Are you ahead of a wave? So it's always planning to where, you know, we overstaff in our operations for what is my role, and kind of similar how to all three of us run our companies. Our job is to handle payroll, compliance, everything outside of revenue generation. And I want to be the very best that I can be for my team members, just the same when I was focused solely on originations. I wanted to be the best for my real estate agents. What does that mean? That means I need to have great communication. It means that I need to, you know, have follow-up. I need to be getting referrals back to them. I've taken that same concept and what I view made me a good originator, a good self-sourcing originator, and applied it to the same things for selling employment, right? What do I need to do to where if you partner with me, that you know that you have that support? What differentiates us between, not between us, but between the other 75% of this industry, between retail? Are you talking, if you're at guaranteed rate or fairway, are you talking to the owner if you have a question and you're looking to grow your business? And the answer is no. I know it's not. Are they having the type of, you know, even collaboration that the three of us have? You're not getting fairway and guaranteed rate and movement having conversations. The three of us talk often, and it's normally driven on what can we do to help our teams get a better experience, what can we do to make our lender partners better. It's normally always based on how we can improve our industry, which is why, you know, personally I love the broker channel, because I'm an abundance mindset person. I'm not, I've helped a lot of people in this room start their own companies and say, hey, here's our model, it works. We're not reinventing the wheel. You know, none of us are. It's really, we may think we have something that's new and exciting. We sell money for a living. It's like, okay, I'm taking X, you're getting Y. But here's how to do it at scale. Here's how to do it effectively. Here's the mistakes I made. Let me help you with those. But for my own team, it's trying to forecast now, what does the future look like in mortgage? And I think there's going to be a lot of changes that happen that are going to disrupt our industry. You know, I said it back on stage when I was at Hall of Fame in Miami before the market collapsed, about controlling your bottom line, right? Looking at the fact of what would happen if you lost 50% of your business. We didn't lose 50%, but however, we didn't because we were, I would say we were built lean. And now, right now, things are good. And maybe everybody's like, yeah, it's been a tough year, but the reality is it's really been good. I think we just got used to having, 2% interest rates where, as Jonathan Haddad was saying, it's like you didn't have to jump to pick up the apple. There will be a change again in this industry in the next 3 to 5 years, whether that's with advancement in technology, or it's a change in the way they allow mini core lines, or what the deal is. But there will be change in understanding how can I stay flexible enough to where I'm going to be a leader when that change happens. Because even the wholesale channel, when TRID happened, and you watched a lot of the companies fumbling, that change propelled a lot of us, right? We had options that retail didn't have. We were able to be innovators during that time, and we started to gain market share at that time of change. So I really want to help my team be prepared for the focus of what's going to happen in 3 to 5 years, and are we prepared for it, and how do we lead it?
All right, so you really put this on a tee for me, because this is where I wanted to go in our last 15 minutes. When you talk about future, when you talk about change, when you guys talk about retail, and I'm kind of, wherever the camera might be, I'm kind of looking at you, retail, and I'm saying that in my 36 years of experience, the best, the brightest, the most capable, the most vulnerable, the most willing to lay it all on the line are in the broker channel right here, right now, today. And we are coming for you like a fucking freight train. Choo-choo, okay? But let's turn this around for a second, right? Because you're only as strong as your weakest link. And, you have to, in scripting a plan for a company, it just can't all be, hey, this is where we're going to crush it. So, Dave, let's start with you. In this assault on retail, what do you think that that C2 can do, needs to do better, that maybe retail has this one small competitive advantage, or this one thing that might want to keep an originator on the retail side?
Yeah, I worked at a bank for some time, and I coined those days as golden handcuffs. And they sell this Kool-Aid that, the brokerage community is like the Raiders of the NFL, And but that team is selling out stadiums in Vegas now, and they're doing a great, and I think once a retail LO lands on the retail channel, it's kind of this aha moment, like, what the fuck took me so long to get here? And I'll never forget, my pops, we have these conferences that are now coined C2 Connect. We've been doing them for years. He came up to me and he goes, David, I just had the best conversation with an LO. He said, this is the last place I'll ever work. And I said, yeah, I know, but did you see how old he was? And he's like, you're right, he was pretty gray-haired. And now it's an opportunity for us as young leaders to attract, younger talent. And I think we all have, our avatar, who our perfect LO is, and building around that, and building what I call our SEAL team. And, it is attracting that talent that's ready for the brokerage lifestyle. It is a lifestyle, we live it, we breathe it. We earn it, and the sooner you can find it, the better off you'll be. You won't have that glass ceiling. I'm here to support people's unlimited success. We want to unlimit their potential, where I feel like in retail or in banking, it's do good, but don't do too good. It's like, no good deed goes unpunished. These are your production metrics. This is what we're going to pay you. Oh, next year you did great. We're going to need more, but we're going to pay you less. I don't fuck with that. We want to... We're pretty flatline in terms of how our model works, and I want people to kick ass. And there's an 80-20 rule. 20% of the folks make 80% of the volume. So it's about encouraging those folks that really strive to emulate those at the top to get those nuggets. And I think that's what we're all here for. It is to walk away with a few more nuggets that we can go back to our desk and say, I remember, what Jesse said, or I remember what, somebody said that made a difference. And it makes a difference every day to them. And, but to get back to what you're saying is getting people out of retail, out of those chains, into the brokerage community is how we all win, and what I think all of us can agree upon, and why we should stop calling on each other's fucking LOs.
Cheers to that. By the way, I'm feeling old here. Jenna,
Was that a knock?
I'm taking one fishing. I know you're calling. That's about relationships, though. I mean, I've got relationships with folks. I was out in Idaho, golfing with the guy that runs my reverse division and top LOs, and it's a family, and we treat it like family. And if you do that, it makes it a lot easier, because it's hard, leading a large team with a lot of cowboys and cowgirls, and you got to trust that what they're doing is operating, under the integrity that you have in leading the company. And I think it starts with us, and it funnels down, and you got to trust that people are doing the right thing and delivering that value and making a difference, and making sure that, Vanguard and BlackRock aren't out buying homes, and it's people that we want owning them, making lives happen in them.
Yeah, and I do, before we get to you, Mike, I actually do want to pause on that thought for a second, because I think it's in line with what I said about wanting the sugar high of slightly lower rates versus growing your business. And I would also say, look, there's always going to be some moving. I mean, and right now, we have some folks that are, trying to take some people and all this other stuff. And we're like, look, if they don't want to be here, let them go to some extent. But we have, as a community, such a bigger pool in retail, right? I would challenge us collectively to focus on that first. And, sure, let the chips fall where they may here. But as a community, the bigger opportunity is bringing the people over from the dark side than it is playing musical chairs.
Absolutely.
Look, the biggest issue we have getting people out of retail is educating them at the end of the day. There's not a damn thing that they're better at. Not one at the end of the day. I should say, there is one thing they're better at. Their retaining bonuses, their signing bonuses. They give them $400,000 for 2 years, right? We don't make enough money off them to give them hundreds of thousands of dollars to guarantee for 2 years and then jack up their rates like crazy. That's not what we can do. That's the one thing they do, and that's that golden handcuff that screws loan officers. And it's really, you got to start, to me, when I find those team leaders that take that money, I go to their teammates. I said, how much of that did you get, by the way, to get jacked for the next 2 years? And I go after them, and I'll destroy their team from within to teach them a fucking lesson, not to be so goddamn stingy as to take the money yourself and then screw your teammates. I said, what did your family get out of this money? Outside of the fact that now you got to sell jacked up rates for the next 2 years because you're capped to these people. But there's nothing at all that brokers don't do better than them. We have better compensation, minus signing bonus, right, that the team leader gets, not the loan officer. We have better compensation. We have better rates. We have a hell of a lot more products, right? They used to have better support.
Better partners.
Way better partners. Support was the big thing. It was the big thing. It was support, right? Because retail makes enough money to have all these branches, brick and mortar branches, beautiful offices around the country, and they would have this large level of support. But with the invention of Zoom and Microsoft Teams and things of that nature, that is now unneeded anymore. Right? A lot of people don't want to go to office. And now some of them still do, and they can do that. If you pay them enough, they can go get their own offices and those types of things. But support was the number one thing they had. But even that today, if you do it right, just be available to somebody nonstop on a Zoom session, you're going to support them. But there's not a damn thing that they do better. Not one. And it's really just a matter of getting it out of their heads now that they feel like they have to be there. And unfortunately, there was a line that was drawn in the sand that we got really hardcore as brokers, and we're a part of this, right? And basically said, fuck you, retail, a little. And now to the point where they got so defensive that now you got to get some of those guys to open up a little bit more, play a little bit maybe nicer anymore. The brokers are better thing was a harsh line in the sand for a while there. Some of them just wouldn't move. you know, they got a little stubborn at one point. But it's better. And there's nothing that's not better. You have to educate them is what it comes down to. And if they won't do it, go after their teams. Teach them a lesson and destroy their team from within. Their teams will come over, provide them what they need, and you'll be good to go.
Before we get to you, Tom, you know, when I look at this situation, I'm sort of reminded of my beloved Yankees. The last 5, 6, 7 years, they've had a tremendous amount of talent, but I almost feel like there's an arrogance about them, that they're sitting there waiting for the 3-run home run. And, you know, tomorrow, you know, we don't need to pull out all the stops today. And you know, the Boston Red Sox, boo. And, you know, you look at those somewhat recent World Series teams, there's a hunger there. There's a ruthlessness. And that's how I see, you know, our industry split right now. There's an arrogance about retail. But here's what I'm going to sort of say the quiet part out loud for a second. You know, they've been waiting and waiting and waiting to get saved, and that savior hasn't come. And there's blood in the water, and they're bleeding out. And you know, it's the pride before the fall sometimes. So.
Yeah, I think, you know, Mike hit it on the head with education. I think when we're looking at why would somebody stay where it's more expensive and getting paid less, and a lot of it has to do with fear. I think if you can actually dial in the numbers, I was reading a report that showed the average time that an originator has been with retail, it's like 16 years. If you rewind back to that, even I'll say before AIM was started, a lot of brokers felt like they were on an island a little bit, right? Meaning you would open a mortgage company or a brokerage, you were by yourself, there was no collaboration, to where for me, I didn't even know who none of us would have met if it wasn't for that ability to create something to collaborate with each other. There's still that mindset for them where they're stuck in that thinking that they're on an island, right? I'm not going to have support. Well, wait a minute, you're not the one actually underwriting a loan. The underwriter's in my office. We've all heard these things so many times, but the reality is, in the day of technology, our underwriters are a phone call away. It's an excuse. So our job as, you know, each and every one of us is to educate them, right? How do we do that? That's where, for me, sometimes I cannot break through to a retail originator because they're stubborn. Right? So we started going a different way. What if I start educating the real estate agents, right? We just held an event in Dallas-Fort Worth market where we had 400 real estate agents, and we are talking about the broker advantage with true numbers that are going to show why do you want to work with an independent mortgage broker? You know, they'll spend 2-3 days and lose a contract over a $500 water heater, yet they're referring them to somebody that's $13,000 more expensive for a minority borrower. How does that make sense? Well, guess what? If I can educate that real estate agent, now I'm calling on those real estate agents and say, hey, I've noticed, you know, you're working with so-and-so. Seems like they're a great originator. They have a relationship. And where we can get better is we need to start working on those relationships, not only with our agents, but with the retail originators. Because until they actually see it more and believe it, they're going to stay with their walls up, right? It's like, I remember what happened in 2008, right? We went down to 6% market share as brokers. That's still at the top of their mind. Before we had great trade associations like we do now that are actually fighting for our protection, right? Where we have an advocacy group strictly for brokers. We did not have those things before, right? We had one part of it, but not covering it as intense where you had the collaboration that we do now. So to me, it's really the only way that we're going to continue to gain market share. Pretty simple. We need to change the minds of retail originators one at a time. I think Jonathan, I love what he said the other day on his presentation. It was like, instead of me trying to worry about making a difference to 1,000 people, have a conversation with one. Invite them to an event, right? We have AIM Fuse coming up. I normally bring 20 or 30 retail originators to that event. We'll give you a free ticket for a retail originator. Have them watch what happens. Have them hear from Mike, Temko, Joe Shalaby, all of you guys, to where like, well, wait a minute, you know, Steven, like you did $6.5 million last year as a solo broker, and who's your boss? Oh wait, he doesn't have one. Well, do you need a problem? You need help? Who do you call? Any one of us, right? Like you have the team, you have the support. And the reality is you're selling money cheaper and getting paid more. So help me understand, because I joke with my team members, I take recruiting calls to this day, right? They're like, well, why? Because I want to know, right? Tell me, is there something to where I can sell money cheaper and get paid more without sacrificing my team or my clients? And the answer is always no, and then I end up recruiting the recruiter that called me. So it's, to me, it really comes down to education and looking at it for, the buddy-buddy system is very deep in our industry. If you have a retail originator that's best friends with that real estate agent, the real estate agent doesn't always know the difference. So instead of focusing always on educating the retail originator, start educating the referral partners, because you occasionally get a shot to work with them on a transaction where you're not their preferred lender. And are you educating them on the fact of, hey, I just want to make sure that you understand that as a mortgage broker, our costs are normally $10,000 to $13,000 cheaper. I'd love to show it to you. If you go into AIM's portal, we have it on there. They'll say the broker advantage. Send them that one pager to where they can see it and help educate them, because when they just spent the last 3 days trying to fight over a $500 water heater, but they're referring them to a guy over at Guaranteed Rate, they're not understanding.
By the way, can I point something out real quick? You're the only guy that hasn't cussed up here yet. Can we just get an F-bomb out of you? Just, no?
That's why we all have different cultures, Mike.
Anybody want to?
So we're going to wrap up here. I want to say a couple things. First of all, every time you guys have said something here, I've got like 43 questions or things that I want to riff off of. But for a second, let's pretend that we're in a boardroom right now. And for a second that, I'm leading my organization and that these guys are my sales leaders, humbly, right? And here's what I'm hearing. And this is what the call to action that we should all have here, right? We know the opportunity in terms of being able to go out and move people from the dark side to the right side of the force, right? We have to look within, invert, right? And say, why aren't we doing as good a job as we know we can do, right? We've got to diagnose it, triage it, create a plan. If there's anybody capable of doing that, it's the folks in this room, and that's what we've got to do. So I want to thank you guys. I want to thank you guys for everything that you do for the industry, for more importantly, homeowners, and most importantly to me personally, for the friendships. It's to me everything that I got into this industry about. And so I don't want any applause. These are the big dogs, so I want a bunch of woofs. Let's hear it for the big dogs. Woof, 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 woof.
Thank you, Phil.